We will now call the April 21st Common Council meeting to order. Roll call, please.
Alderman Kirkowski.
Here.
Lorik.
Here.
Dukenyak.
Here.
Tillman.
Here.
Gale.
Here.
Guzekowski.
Here. Everybody, please rise for the Pledge of Allegiance. Mike, would you lead us?
Pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Approval of minutes from 3/30/20. If everybody please take a look.
Kirkowski make a motion to approve the minutes of March 30th, 2020.
Dukenyak second.
Roll call.
Alderman Lorik.
Aye.
Dukenyak.
Aye.
Tillman.
Aye.
Gale.
Aye.
Guzekowski.
Aye.
Kirkowski.
Aye.
And this being our first meeting back after an election, it is time to elect a common council president. So before we start, we're in a little bit different circumstance than we've been in the past. We normally do this by secret ballot. We can continue to do it by secret ballot, or we could do it by show of hands too if everybody's in consensus with that. So I'm going to just take a quick straw poll. How do you feel about hands? If you're good with hands, raise your hand, please. Ken, you in? Okay. We will go by show of hands then. So at this time, I'll open the nominations. It'll be the first call for nominations for council president.
Dukenyak move to nominate Ken Gale for common council president.
Guzekowski seconds.
Ken, would you accept the nomination?
Sure.
Second call. Are there any other nominations? Second call. Any other nominations? Third and final call for final nominations. No? Motion to close the nominations.
Kirkowski make a motion to close nominations.
Dukenyak second.
Roll call.
Alderman Dukenyak.
Aye.
Tillman.
Aye.
Gale.
Aye.
Guzekowski.
Aye.
Kirkowski.
Aye.
Lorik.
Aye.
Okay. That was next. So a motion for unanimous vote for Alderman Ken Gale to be council president, please.
Okay. Dukenyak move to
Motion.
make a motion on a unanimous vote to approve Ken Gale as common council president.
Kirkowski will second.
Roll call.
Alderman Tillman.
Aye.
Gale.
Aye.
Guzekowski.
Aye.
Kirkowski.
Aye.
Lorik.
Aye.
Dukenyak.
Aye.
Congratulations, Alderman Gale.
Congratulations.
Or President Gale.
Thank you,
actually.
gentlemen. Appreciate the trust.
Okay, moving on. Recognition. We have a mayoral proclamation for another centurion in the city. Catherine, are you able to read that, please?
I am. Congratulations to Donald Brackman on his 100th birthday. Whereas Don Brackman was born on May 8th, 1920 in Milwaukee, Wisconsin to Edgar and Lucille Bachman. And whereas Don remembers he and his sister, the only two children born to Edgar and Lucille, walking, taking the bus or riding their bikes to wherever they needed to go, as the family did not own a car. And whereas Don remembers especially hard times during the Depression when his family would receive vouchers and have to stand in line to receive food. As Don says, it was rough, but we got through it. And whereas as a boy, Don enjoyed sports, especially baseball, football, and an occasional game of golf, and would attend dances at the Social Center on 11th Street and Mitchell Avenue, where Saturday dances cost only 10 cents. And whereas after graduating from Pulaski High School, Don enlisted in the Air Force and spent 4.5 years serving his country, spending time in England, Germany, and France, where Don saw a lot of fighting, but never once did he fire his own rifle, but rather spent most of his time driving a truck, laying brick, and helping to build an airport in Germany. And whereas Don is a Normandy invasion survivor with the 834th Aviation Engineer Battalion. And whereas after returning from the Air Force, Don went to work at All Gear Company and worked there until he retired. And it was during this time after the Air Force that Don reconnected with old friends, especially a young lady by the name of Ruth. Don and Ruth began dating 2 years after, and on May 7th, 1949, they were married. And whereas Don and Ruth built a life together, having 2 children, Brian and Diane, who have had children of their own, providing Don with 3 beautiful grandchildren. And whereas some of Don's fondest memories were dancing with the love of his life, Ruth, at the Eagles Club, where you can find them nearly every Sunday night, and participating in a variety of sports. And whereas Don played both slow and fast pitch baseball, starting out as a pitcher, then moving to a catcher, a position he still maintained at 94 years young. And whereas Don enjoyed bowling until he was 92, with an average of 188, and on what is believed to have been his 90th birthday, bowled a perfect game of 300. And whereas for several years, Don participated in the Senior Olympics, earning 8 medals in the 1990s. And whereas because of his passion for sports, Don spent time with the Greenfield Parks and Recreation Department, teaching and coaching sports to others. And in 2003 was named the Employee of the Year by the Parks and Recreation Department and Site Supervisor Hall of Fame inductee. And whereas Don Brockman will be 100 years young on Friday, May 8th, 2020. A celebration in honor of Don will be held at his residence, Meadowmere Oak Creek Senior Living Facility, on that day. Now therefore be it resolved that the mayor of the city of Oak Creek hereby congratulates Donald Brockman on his milestone 100th birthday. Be it further resolved that the city clerk be, and she is hereby directed, to transmit a suitable copy of this proclamation to Don Brockman, dated this 8th day of May, 2020.
Thank you, Catherine.
You're welcome.
Does anybody have any words for Don's colorful life and remarkable life? Holy cow.
Alderman Dukenyak, 3rd District. I don't know Don, but with Catherine reading the proclamation, he certainly sounds like an amazing individual. So happy 100th birthday, Don.
Steve Kurkowski, 1st District. I don't know Don either, but I tell you, he's got to be a great guy because he loves baseball and he was a catcher, and so was I. So got to be great.
I should still be around when you're 94. Right. You let me know how those knees feel.
Right.
Really?
94.
Really?
Oh my. We usually go out when under normal times and we greet these people as they turn 100 years old. It's really remarkable when you meet them. The life and the energy they exude is amazing, and it's easy to see why they made the 100 mark. Don must be just an unbelievable example of that. It sounds like he's got a lot of years left in him. I don't think I could ever bowl a 188 in my life, more or less at an advanced age. So congratulations to Don on his 100th anniversary. We will try to get out as things go back to normal and visit you and congratulate you in person. I'd love to meet this individual. So on behalf of the Common Council and myself, congratulations and happy 100th birthday, Don. So next up, we have a council proclamation for Dennis Lasecki for dedicated service to the city of Oak Creek as a member of our Police and Fire Commission. If you would, Catherine.
Certainly. Council Proclamation number 2003 to Dennis Lasecki for dedicated service to the city of Oak Creek as a member of the Police and Fire Commission. Whereas on June 5th, 2018, Dennis Lasecki was appointed to the Police and Fire Commission by Mayor Daniel Bakevich, and whereas Dennis Lasecki served on that capacity for 2 years. And whereas Dennis has been instrumental in the appointment of 1 fire chief and countless police officers, firefighters, detectives, lieutenants, sergeants, battalion chiefs, captains, and assistant chiefs. And whereas Dennis served as a liaison between the citizens of Oak Creek and the police and fire departments, ensuring that these departments run smoothly, effectively, and with the utmost integrity. And whereas as a member of the Police and Fire Commission, Dennis has dutifully served the city of Oak Creek in a thorough, conscientious, and professional manner. And whereas in April 2020, after 2 years of service, Dennis stepped down from his position on the Police and Fire Commission. Now therefore be it resolved that the Mayor and Common Council of the City of Oak Creek do hereby show their appreciation and gratitude to Dennis for his dedicated service to the City of Oak Creek as a member of the Police and Fire Commission. Be it further resolved that this proclamation be spread upon the minutes of this meeting, and that the city clerk be and she is hereby directed to transmit a suitable copy thereof to Dennis Lasecki, introduced and adopted this 21st day of April 2020.
Thank you, Catherine. Does anybody have anything for Dennis? Chris?
I do, Mayor. Thank you. Dennis, actually, I'm a friend of his. He goes to St. Stephen's with my family as well. I recommended that he sign up and apply for the Police and Fire Commission opening that they had. He's similar to our earlier proclamation. He's a salt of the earth type of guy. And I know that he was willing to serve. He was a little reluctant, but he was able to help out during this time, and now he needs to move on to other things. So I truly appreciate him stepping up when he did for the 2 years here. And I tell you, when you look and you think about just all of the different community members that step up on all these boards and commissions, I mean, this is just another example of just how many good people we have serving our community in so many capacities.
Very well said. I know, I would agree. I want to thank Dennis for his time, his talent, and his service to the city. He came in at a time where we were transitioning to a fire chief. We got very young in the police department as well as the fire service. It's actually been a very active committee over the last 2 years. So I want to thank Dennis for his time and his service. So we need a motion on this one? We do. Can we move for a motion for Dennis?
Yeah, thank you, Mayor. Gail will move to approve Council Proclamation 20-03 to Dennis Laskowski for dedicated service to the City of Oak Creek as a member of the Police and Fire Commission.
I'll second.
Roll call.
Alderman Gale.
Aye.
Guzekowski.
Aye.
Kirkowski.
Aye.
Lorik.
Aye.
Dukenyak.
Aye.
Toman.
Aye.
Thank you, Dennis. Item 7 is information on the COVID-19 update, and we are streaming or virtual. So with us, we have Darcy with us on the line. So Kevin, if you would, it's all yours, Darcy.
Good evening. I'm Darcy Du Bois, Health Officer for the City of Oak Creek. As of today, we have 71 positive cases of COVID-19 in the city. We've had 293 negative tests for COVID. We've had 27 individuals that are recovered and have been released from isolation. And unfortunately, we've had 5 deaths among City of Oak Creek residents. Currently, about 25% of our positive cases have been residents of long-term care facilities. And approximately 30% of individuals who have tested positive have spent some time in the hospital. It does seem that our number of new cases is starting to slow down. It's hard to predict when we have kind of small increases in cases every day, but we've seen our increases be in lower between 0 and 2 cases over the past week or so. So we're hopeful that that's a good sign. We do continue to see new cases both connected to long-term care facilities and also in the general community. So, you know, unfortunately, we are still seeing some spread of disease in the general community, but again, I do think that it's slowing down. I continue to have daily communication with the health officers here in Milwaukee County, as well as the state and statewide health officers. Our goal is really to be collaborative when it makes sense and as much as possible. You know, we do have a shared goal at this point with business and local government and our residents. You know, we are anxious to start the process of reopening, just as we're hearing from a lot of our community members, and I'm sure many of you share that goal as well. You know, we do have a concern that reopening too quickly and without the needed testing, contact tracing, and healthcare system capacity, we could see another large surge of positive cases. And so we're wanting to get those things, that infrastructure built up as quickly as possible so that we can start the process of reopening. I think there's been some frustration with the state around not giving us specific measures and specific steps that we're looking for, and also not incorporating local feedback as much as we would like them to throughout this process. But we continue to share that feedback with them that we need to be more involved and that we need to have more specifics, and you know are hoping to see some of that. You know, given the nature of COVID-19, as you all know, it's really hard to act in a vacuum. So while our priority is making decisions that are really best for the Oak Creek community, we know that we also have to consider what our neighbors are doing because of the fluid nature of where people live and work and spend their time. We have to, as much as possible, our goal is to make decisions together so that our community is protected, both for people who live here and also people who come here to visit and work. And we really want to work together through this process. Are there any questions?
Questions for Darcy?
Darcy, this is Steve Kurkowski. As early as today, there were some comments on a Facebook page with regards to kids that were playing on playground equipment by a school. And in fact, the comment back was the parents are with the kids. Now I understand that our city equipment, playground stuff, everything is all closed, and I don't know if it's marked or not. The county has gone around and marked stuff, even gone as far as putting orange snow fencing around stuff. I don't know if that's needed, but maybe Leslie, through your social media and maybe even getting back with the school district, they need to, if not, we're not going to get cooperation from just telling people. We may need to post that stuff, and they may need to post their stuff because, like you said, there's no clear direction on any of the stuff other than the fact that the stuff is closed, and parents and kids just aren't paying attention for what that's worth.
Yeah, I think it's an
It's
important.
more of a comment, really, I guess.
Sure, and I can just let you know that we did post signage at all of the playgrounds. We worked with DPW to do that. I believe including the school playgrounds as well. We have done some messaging through social media. We've also worked with the school district to send messaging home. I know the mayor sent a letter through their email communication to all parents with that message around, staying home and keeping their children home, or, just with their family unit, not with friends and things like that. But I think it's an ongoing process. And when we know the longer that we are in this, the more anxious people are to get out. So it's certainly something that we have been discussing in the EOC, and I'm sure we will continue to discuss strategies to address that.
I just noticed the county putting snow fencing up. I thought that was a little rough to see that, but I understand that their motive behind it, and I hope Oak Creek doesn't have to get to that extreme, but until the situation is resolved, I mean, I guess anything is possible. So thank you, Darcy.
Mike?
Yeah, hi, Darcy. Alderman Mike Toman. My major concern is, the way I see this thing playing out is until we get a vaccine or medicine that's going to mediate this situation, I think testing is going to be really huge here to see who actually has it. We already have some major concerns that were raised by our fire department already. And I would imagine some of our other departments will be following suit with that. Is there anything in the pipeline right now to put like a priority testing on our at least our protectives who have direct contact with the public? Is there anything like that?
Yeah, that's a good question. So first responders are included in the priority testing group. So the state has, at this point, the recommendation is for healthcare providers to test all symptomatic individuals. That's not happening yet because the capacity is not there, but that is the recommendation. However, there is a priority for the Wisconsin State Lab and the Milwaukee Health Department Lab to run test specimens that belong to priority groups, which includes first responders, healthcare workers, as well as hospitalized individuals. So we have, for the most part, been able to get all of the members of those groups tested. I don't think we've encountered the barriers. We are still seeing barriers when we have community residents who are experiencing symptoms and aren't a member of those priority groups. They are still having difficulty accessing testing.
Is there anything we can formally do to put more pressure on state government? I understand there's a shortage of tests. Not everybody can get a test. I get that part.
Yeah.
But these are people that are really our first responders, and it worries me, I guess. And,
Yeah.
In the form of maybe a resolution the city could draft, or I don't know what it would take. I mean, you have more expertise in that area.
Mike, if I
Yeah.
could just add, because we were part of a conversation on Friday with some of the employee groups, and I think we learned a little bit. And although there's priority testing for healthcare workers and first responders, you still have to be symptomatic in order to get those tests. So that was really just to add on to Alderman Tolman's point. We could have a logical need to test an asymptomatic first responder, even though they're not displaying symptoms. We want to make sure that if they had an exposure, they could come back to work. But with the way the disease is, and Darcy, you can jump in and strangle me if I get something wrong here, but this could be, the exposure could be day one and there could be no symptoms. You could even go in and get a test even if you were asymptomatic. And that time lag is really the problem of why I would think they're not testing anybody that's asymptomatic, because who knows of that subset of tests of asymptomatic people are actually carrying the disease anyway, even if they do test negative on day 1, 2, 3, or so on. So.
Yep.
So what
that's
is Darcy?
correct. Sorry, that's correct what Andrew said. So I think there is some, it would be really nice if we could test someone on, right after that exposure and know that they weren't going to get sick and they could go right back to, their job or their life. But unfortunately, they can get sick anytime during that 14-day period, which is a struggle.
Greg?
Hey, Darcy, Greg Lorick, 2nd District. I understand that, albeit small numbers in comparison to worldwide, the numbers seem to be trending downward currently. And I do see that you track number of positive tests as compared to negative tests. Do you see any trend in the number of people being tested on a day-to-day basis? Is that currently going up, going down? And if it's changing, do you attribute that to availability of tests or number of people showing up with symptoms?
Unfortunately, we haven't seen as much change in that number as we would like to. We want to see the total number of people tested growing, and that's our goal, but we haven't seen a lot of changes in the total number of tests from day to day. So we're still hoping to see that, but not yet. We are working closely with, we're giving feedback on a regular basis to our healthcare partners. We have a weekly call with them, and then a member of the Milwaukee Healthcare Partnership is on our daily health officer call. And on a daily basis, we as health officers are expressing the urgent need for our healthcare partners to really ramp up testing. Unfortunately, it's just not something that the local health departments have the capacity to do. We're pretty maxed out with our role in contact tracing and monitoring clients who are sick. And we really need the healthcare partners to be doing that testing. But for a variety of reasons, they have struggled to increase the capacity to where we need it to be thus far.
Are local hospitals reporting to you? Are they seeing a decline in number of people showing up to the hospital?
They're definitely seeing, starting to see a decrease in the number of people that are admitted to the hospital. I think that each of our healthcare partners, each of the healthcare systems rather, has set up a COVID-19 line, and they're really directing people to call that line first so that they can be screened. And then they're being told if they should come in for testing or not. What we're hearing from people is that unless they're a member of those priority groups, that they are being told to just stay home and isolate until they get better, and that they don't need to be tested. So I think that they may have seen a decrease in the number of people coming in, but I'm not sure that that's because there's fewer people that are sick. It's that they're directing them not to come in.
Thank you.
Okay. Anyone else, anything?
No, all my questions were answered. Thank you. And thank you, Darcy.
You're welcome.
Anything?
Oh, good.
How about you, Rich? No. Darcy, obviously, everybody's preaching it nationwide. Our best defense right now is isolation, social distancing, sanitizing hands, washing hands, the whole thing. Can you just touch a little bit? There was a health professional on one of the municipalities last week about how much it doesn't affect children quite the same way, although it can affect them. But they are really generally carriers of it that pass on to adults. And maybe you could just give us a little education and we could get that out there in the public a little broader.
Yeah, I think you're absolutely right. I think it's really good news that we're not seeing children become extremely ill with COVID-19. In fact, very, very few children are being tested. And so very few children are testing positive because we're just not seeing those symptoms in children. But there is a large concern and some data that shows us that, exactly like you said, children can be either an asymptomatic carrier or they have very, very mild symptoms. And so we might not think that they're ill or might not be worried, but then they can pass that on to, someone in their life, be it a parent, a grandparent, a childcare provider, a teacher, that could be a member of those vulnerable populations, which is why I think even though we don't see high numbers in children, we are still worried. We see schools to be still closed. We see childcare centers operating at a reduced capacity, just to, again, it's another protective measure against reducing the spread of disease.
Thank you. Anyone else? No? Thank you, Darcy. Appreciate all the hard work. I know these are unprecedented times, and again, together we can all get through it. It'll be a little different coming out of it, but again, if we stay isolated and move on and take the CDC recommendations, we should come through it hopefully sooner than later. So thank you.
Thank you.
Okay. Item 8. Item 8 is just a discussion. Not really worried about the whys and hows. Really just a discussion on possibly slowly reintroducing the recycling yard and direction for Andrew, Ted, and Darcy to come up with that plan. So thoughts?
Alderman Dukniak, 3rd District. I had reached out to Andrew about the possibility of, or just at least a discussion about the recycling yard. And that was based on feedback from constituents of my district. And that drumbeat continues to get louder and louder. And Andrew provided a great answer, I thought, or rebuttal to all of the people that insisted upon that yard being open. And certainly the first steps were to follow the directive of the governor and to ensure the safety not only of our employees, but of the residents as well. But now as we begin to move on and people see so many different and changing signs about the governor's directive and how individual municipalities are dealing with this, the least constituents in my area, they're I guess confused why we continue to take that course, and we just say it's in the public interest. And they say, well, what is it? All the other communities don't have an interest in public safety, and I can't quite give those people a responsible answer. You don't want to throw other communities under the bus. But you want to adequately answer that question. So I don't know. Are we at a point right now that, and Darcy, we lost her. Oh, she's not on. That we can devise a plan that puts into place those social distancing, guidelines and provides a safe working environment for our employees, but yet serves our residents as well. That was the biggest thing. You show no leadership because you're abandoning the residents of this community. You're not working for us.
I think we can find some best practices. Andrew?
So there, you said a lot of what I would have said, Rich, in terms of, this was at the very beginning of the executive order, the first executive order. And we had a lot of constituencies to serve. Our residents and taxpayers who were beginning to get more and more out of work or laid off or spending a lot more time at home caring for their yards. But we also had a concerned constituency among our staff. So we were really trying to, gain a month of hindsight to where this thing was all going. And then we kind of had this wrinkle, and I do think it was the appropriate step to take when our sole, piece of messaging was stay at home, stay safe. But I think now, realizing, residents don't understand, realizing the steps, the resources in terms of protective equipment and knowledge that we have. Darcy and Ted and I had met very briefly, and we think that if you want to come to that conclusion this evening, and we just wanted to get that from you, we would safely be able to introduce the yard waste recycling waste site back to the public. I did do a scan of other communities, and I was a little bit surprised because a lot of them had opened and staffed recycle yards the past several weeks as well. Most notably Franklin, Cudahy, Bayside made some accommodations. South Milwaukee remained open, and both West Allis and Greendale were contemplating opening up this week. And I got some other examples across the state, and by and large, those that have similarly situated sites where it's not just a yard waste site where you just dump and it's unmanned, it's kind of self-regulating. A lot of those communities do have manned or staffed sites. So what we also gleaned was some good information on what they're doing to make it safe. So we have an array of things that we're going to be doing. If you want us to go in that direction, we think we could probably open the site at its regular time next Tuesday. That's our goal. And Ted didn't think, I don't want to speak for Ted, I believe Ted is chiming in if he was able. He thinks that we will be able to accommodate, although there will be a big glut, we will be able to accommodate the need and the use with our regular hours that we have for the site. And a little bit enlightening into the operation, we know we are going to need those. My solution, not knowing what Ted knows, was, well, let's expand the hours, because if you can spread it out, maybe you don't have the rush of folks there in a more limited spectrum of hours. They actually need that time in between the days to clean up the yard and make it safe for the constituents. So we think we can do this if that's the direction the council wants to go. From a health perspective, Darcy will give us some other best practices to keep our staff safe, not absolutely needing to check IDs like we usually do, those types of things, making sure we're limiting the queue and making sure that it's not a crowd there. There's definitely ways to do that we've talked about. So it's up to you entirely. We just wanted you to give us your insight. Obviously we can't poll you.
Is there, on Ted's behalf and your behalf as well, any fear of blowback from the municipal or DPW employees about potentially unsafe working conditions, or are we confident that we can develop a plan that really ensures, again, the safety of the residents and the workers?
I defer to Ted. I realize Ted is on the call. Ted, you can chime in.
Okay.
Based on our discussion today, we feel that's, we can make it, we can follow the guidelines that are required to do this safely.
If Alderman Kurkowski, First District, I understand what I'm going to say is like no surprise to anybody, because we've all been to the recycling yard. But in Rich, in answer to your comment, first off, I think nobody but the employees operate any of the machinery there, so there won't be any general, the citizens pushing the buttons to move the compactors and stuff. So that's all employee operated. So, but you think about, I think it should be opened Tuesday. And you talked about regular hours, but you need time in between to clean the place up. But they're currently opened on Tuesdays, Fridays, and Saturdays. So if we need time to clean it, maybe it should be Tuesdays, Thursdays, and Saturdays to give Friday an opportunity to clean it up. Yeah, we are getting into nicer weather. I mean, people are starting to accumulate this stuff. And I've heard a little bit of comments about, we're going to have a lot of, a crap load of stuff here and it's going to be busy. So you think about people driving in. So the only contact that an employee might have with the public is when they're checking their license. So you have somebody there wearing gloves and a face mask, and people hand them the license and they kind of look to make sure they're Oak Creek residents. And then, they go off to wherever they are, and people can maintain their social distancing, because when you got 4 lanes of you got 2 compactors and 4 lanes, even if you have somebody on both sides, you're 6 feet apart. So the questionable areas would be when you're dropping off the leaves or dropping off the branches and stuff. People will have to maintain social distancing. So really, I think it's really easy to do. It's time to do it, but you may have to change it from a Friday to a Thursday to give the DPW folks time to clean up the yard. But added hours is, I could go either way. It doesn't really matter, but but I think we can do it
Pretty
with,
communicate, I think the hours, it changes. The schedule's pretty set in people's mind.
what was that?
I think the schedule's kind of set in people's mind. I think that's,
Well, I know it is, but if we're talking about needing time to clean up the yard, then.
I've never heard that as an
only
argument
open on
before that we
Tuesday,
need time to clean up the
Saturday.
yard. I don't know.
We can make adjustments if we need
Yeah.
to too. I mean, hours.
I mean.
We did not want to, sorry to interrupt, Mayor. Ted, again, speaking for Ted, I know it might be tough. He's not on the video, I don't believe.
No,
but-
I'm on the call though.
Yep. Ted, you can chime in. We talked about this. We did not want to introduce a bunch of new rules. It was my idea to just actually limit the materials we would take because, we're thinking, I think, a little more specifically at yard waste material, which we're going to have a lot of, but people also bring, appliances and all the other things that we allow to recycle, which we do help on a regular basis. We'll help them unload that stuff if they need the help. So that was my thought, because we do also have the community cleanup where you can put the stuff out to the curb in the middle of the month. But Ted, and I think Ted is correct on this. We didn't want to introduce a bunch of new regulations or limitations, new hours. I think we can adjust this after weeks 1 and 2 if we really need to do something different. But I think if you guys give us the impression that you want us to open it and begin to provide that service, we'll do so.
I'm up, Andrew.
Yeah, just finish my comment. Yeah, I would just say open it.
Okay.
Okay. Guys?
Ted, do you have any response to Alderman Dukniak's comment about employee concerns?
Well, I'm not going to force anyone. I mean, there are a lot of people that are really scared right now. And so I'm not going to send somebody if they're not willing to do that. I think that we'll have employees that will go over there and not have a problem with it. And then I think we'll have some that are going to be very nervous and don't want to do it. I mean, I think that's understandable. But I think we should have enough staff to man it. And, we're just going to have to practice our social distancing, make sure that we give our employees the proper PPE and training, and then go from there.
Yeah, I guess my vote would be to open it. If you have the sufficient staff and you can do it safely, I say open it up.
Yeah.
Ken, you got anything?
I would, I'd concur with the rest of my colleagues, although I would opt to do it sooner rather than later. I think the goodwill you'd engender from the community would be well served to actually get this thing open this weekend, in my opinion. So, again, given the fact that we've been thinking about this at least since last week for sure, I think we should do what we can to try and get it open on Friday.
And one of the reasons that we wanted to wait until Tuesday is I've got calls into Advance. We're getting additional compactors and additional dumpsters in case we get a big rush of people in there. And we wanted to make sure that we were set up so that when they did come in there, we would have everything ready to go and then not have a big cluster so that the operation could run smoothly.
I did, Ted, coinciding with that, if you're still doing the branch pickup in early May, or if you guys have been doing that already, I've heard that we've been doing it as it's been put to the curb already. But
Well, we've been trying to get ahead of it.
I know,
but
if residents are not aware that we're actually doing that, you're going to get a rush. So if, nip it in the bud, let people know, hey, we're picking the stuff up. If it's at your curbside, I think you'd maybe solve some of those problems where you're having huge loads and backups of cars. So
We'll have to advertise the branch pickup that's going on, and we got an early start on it. I think that formally starts May 1. We'll advertise that we're opening up the yard waste and, point the residents back to the rules of that and the hours and such. But then we'll also let them know that, hey, you don't have to lug your washing machine down to the recycle yard in the next week or two. You could put it out to your curb beginning May 15th.
don't we have a spring cleanup in mid-May then?
May 15th.
15th.
Yeah, we have the social media capability to just make sure we use it effectively.
We will.
Chris, anything?
Well, I was just going to mention Alderman Guzikowski, 6th District, that just maybe with the spring cleanup, maybe republish the information on how people need to get their stuff out to the curb and what the process is, so they know that if they have to have it out there by a certain date, it's out there or not. Because I honestly don't even know myself if we have to have a date, if it's date, stamped and they drive by. If it's not out there, they're not coming back. So I guess that's would be one question or concern just to bring up to the public. And then the only other things that I had brought up is that if you felt that you wanted to help limit exposure to our employees, the families maybe request that there's only one family member bringing stuff down. That may help. I don't know, but I'm just saying that you could help keep them safer at home while one's family member's coming down to the yard and still getting the job done.
Don't make it an outing with the kids.
Right. Greg?
Even though you're dying to do so.
I agree. I would support opening it up, especially if there's sufficient employees that are willing to work, and as long as there's sufficient PPE for those employees to keep them safe. And I know you don't want to add any extra regulations or anything, but I'd support even signage or something saying that it is fully self-serve at this time to limit the employees from actually helping. I don't know if that's an option, but I'd say open it.
I would agree with everything that was said, particularly Greg. Signage is going to be huge. It's not a playground. It's not a place to search around, get your business, get in and out of there and move on, and go from there. But I do think it would be appreciated. Andrew, Ted, Darcy, direction is come up with best practice for that yard and we'll get it back open.
How soon?
Okay.
How soon?
Danny, sorry.
Yes.
How soon was that gonna be open?
You know what? We're going to leave it to the experts. If Ted knows best how to set that yard up for the safety of his employees and the public, and I'm going to trust in him.
So that was scheduled to be next week, Tuesday.
That's what Andrew mentioned. If it changes, that's on the discretion of the people that really know the yard. Item 9, we're actually to a resolution. Consideration of a resolution approving an intergovernmental cooperation agreement for procurement of PPE or personal protective equipment and other necessary sanitation and medical supplies in response to the COVID-19 public health emergency. Bridget, you with us?
Yes, sir.
You want to take it away? There you are.
Thank you very much. So tonight we have.
Sorry.
Yeah.
Everybody got the agreement.
Yep, an updated agreement. Thank you, Mayor. The updated agreement tonight, we just received actually this morning as the unified Milwaukee County EOC. So each community has our own EOC, and then the county has a joint or unified EOC that we have all been working on this agreement for the last couple of weeks. It is through each of our city attorneys and the majority of the administrators and the finance individuals. The purpose of this agreement is allowing bulk purchases among the communities as we need to order PPE or the personal protection equipment. That also includes sanitation and different medical supplies. So by having this agreement in place and signing on as the city of Oak Creek, we have the ability to request purchases on a daily basis, a weekly basis, whatever that process ends up being, to the procurement team, which is set up with the finance individual from each of our communities. The procurement team has then vetted the vendors. So we're all kind of getting spammed right now with many vendors trying to sell us different products, and we are going through a full research and vetting process of these vendors because oftentimes they are asking for half of the money up front, and so we're trying to limit our liability as best we can. So once the procurement team receives orders, they will compile whatever orders they have for that day, solicit 3 quotes or requests for proposals from those vendors, and hand that off to Milwaukee County. Milwaukee County is the fiscal agent, and they will then give the quote to each municipality. We have 2 hours to agree to the price on that quote or to deny it. And then the county will make the purchase and subsequently bill each of the communities. So we will have to have a quicker, I believe it's a net 7, so a 7-day turnaround of payment to the county for these goods. When the goods come in, they are being stored at a facility in West Dallas, and West Dallas DPW will be assisting with getting the items distributed per the order. So, I mean, the IGA has been reviewed. We have an exhibit that tries to facilitate how we will disperse based on priority needs, ensuring that everybody's first responders and healthcare providers are receiving the equipment first, and then we'll really see how this can all play out. We do have the ability to back out at essentially whatever point or not participate. We also have the ability to decide to make our own purchases. This isn't just we can only purchase through the UPOC. So if we have a different vendor that comes up that we have the ability to get some gloves from, we can go ahead and purchase that. But what we're seeing is the vendors have such a limited supply that they are asking for very large quantities. So we're getting both discount and able to distribute among the community.
Bridget Alderman Dukniak, 3rd District. First off, for our community, Oak Creek, and then any other communities that are part of this group, do any of them have a critical shortage currently of PPE?
I think Chief Krusick might still be on the phone or on the line here, but to my knowledge, the city currently is at about a 6-week, if I remember correctly, on our masks. We have a large number of gloves. So, there's different things that we've been tracking. In fact, the police and fire departments have been reporting our inventory on a daily or weekly basis. So this is already, we've been putting steps in place so that we have an understanding, and the county can see that as we make our requests.
So we don't have a critical shortage in our community currently. Is that correct?
I just heard Chief speak up.
Yeah. Bridget, I can go ahead and take that one. Can everyone hear me?
Yep, go ahead, Mike.
Not really, yeah.
Perfect. So we maintain a stock of equipment for the fire department, and we replenish that stock either through the purchasing through our vendors or through the county EOC. As a little background, right now the big item, the golden ticket for us is the N95 mask. Our current stock of N95 masks is 238. Our burn rate is about 150 per 10-day period, and that's call volume dependent. That can fluctuate up or down. So with what's on rigs in our stock, you're probably talking a 2 to 3 week window. The county has a stockpile of N95s that can stretch the county out another 6 weeks or so. So there's a supply, but it's a very finite supply. Medical College of Wisconsin has published some directives for the PPE, and there's essentially 3 levels of usage. There's normal usage, there's a contingency level, and then there's a critical level. We are at the critical level because our supply chains are non-existent for N95 masks. And our operations have been modified to reflect that those N95 masks, which under normal conditions would be worn by more providers for general aspects of patient care, are not only really being worn for procedures with patients. So we have a stockpile, but it's also at a critical level.
And I apologize. I had a difficult time understanding that, but that's fine.
So,
Bottom line is,
Rich, the main thing that you hear in the media right now, you hear about the N95 masks, and Chief Krusick says we essentially have a 10-day supply or a little more than a 10-day supply at what would currently be our typical utilization rate. So that supply will be used differently based on our call volume. So if
Okay.
all of a sudden call volume spike, those masks will be run through quicker. The county has a backup supply that based on their current usage could go for about 6 weeks. But every community, every entity is dealing with the fact that nobody can get N95 masks right now. So we've received further information about KN95 masks. And so that is now the level of mask that we are trying to get our hands on with our first purchase through the UEOC this week.
Well, thank you. And I guess I understand now that there is the real possibility that we would, use the resources of being part of this coalition here. So that's a good thing. I mean, to be a part of.
Yeah.
Thanks, Bridget. I think it's actually, these group purchasing arrangements, I think, are usually very, very, very strong organizations, I think, and serve the public well. I'm wondering, reading into this earlier, I did wonder, maybe you can clarify too, the only thing that troubles me, and maybe it's not even a trouble, the prioritization. I'm wondering if there's minimum quantities delivered no matter what is the situation for individual communities. I'd rather, I understand there may be hot spots, but I want to make sure Oak Creek has what it needs no matter what's going on. So without just kind of giving someone else the discretion to make the decision for us.
So there's multiple, I guess, areas for that answer. The first level of security, we will only pay for what we receive. So we aren't going to be, putting out money and then not receiving the product. The new agreement or the updated agreement that Melissa sent out this afternoon had the updated exhibit. It didn't differ a ton, but it talked a little bit more in depth about the distribution among the tiers in 5.1.2. So when you look at that section, we are looking at two things. We are looking at the number of days of your supply that you have left based on your tier. And your tier is focused on how much liability or exposure you would have to COVID-19. But then we also have another calculation that is saying if we could only get 1,000 masks, part of that calculation is going to say you, Oak Creek, get your pro rata share based on the number of first responders that you have in your community. So in addition to reporting our inventory and essentially our supply, we also are reporting how many people we are trying to mask up or to give the PPE to. So Ken, even if I anticipate we will always get something of our order. It may not be the entire amount, but the intention by having that, if Oak Creek, West Allis, and the county all put in for the same order of masks, and if we have, 23% of our employees are first responders, we're going to get 23% of that order of masks. Does that make sense?
There's always some distribution, I guess, is the easy way to say that.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah. And keep in mind, we can still source on our own too.
Oh, but by the time you realize you got to source on your own, you're behind the eight ball potentially. So that's...
You're right. So you can be in this agreement and still work behind the scenes sourcing, and then
you're, if all of a sudden your EMS is short N95s and you're scrambling when.
Either way, we have to begin sourcing things. We can't be caught.
The trick is to make sure we get at least some kind of share of whatever's distributed. It just doesn't all go to one entity that either didn't plan right or has a emergency or something.
No, and I don't see that happening. And I'm on the UEOC procurement group. I'm also on part of the UEOC structure group, which is working on the policy and procedure behind this IGA right now. And Melissa has been readily involved with the attorneys as well. So I think we all have been working really well together, and we all understand, all of the smaller communities. We all want to make sure that we don't get, where the House of Correction or, some of the larger entities get all of the resources and we get none. So that was part of the distribution put in here. And like Mayor said, we can always go a different direction as well.
Looks like the bases are covered, so I appreciate that.
Mike, anything?
I'm good, thank you.
Yes.
I'm good, thank you.
How about you, Greg? Steve? Okay. If we could get a move on that resolution, please. A motion.
Yeah, we'll move to approve resolution 12155-042120, approving the intergovernmental cooperation agreement for procuring personal protection equipment and other necessary sanitation and medical supplies in response to the COVID-19 public health emergency.
Guzekowski will second.
Roll call.
Alderman Guzekowski.
Aye.
Kirkowski.
Aye.
Lorik.
Aye.
Dukenyak.
Aye.
Toman.
Aye.
Gale.
Aye.
Okay.
Mayor, before we
Yes.
go on, I just want to, we all know that people are watching us, and maybe more so being live streamed, but to let you know that all the comments we made with regards to item 8, everything we said has already been out on Facebook by a resident. So they're watching, they're posting, and they know what, that's a good thing that they're going to get the information out there.
That is good. Item 10. Again, it's anticipated that mayor and the common council president will do aldermanic appointments to various boards and commissions. It's pretty much standard stuff. Ken will appoint those in item 12, and my appointments will come from 11 and 10. So do we?
We'll hold those until the next meeting then?
Yeah, we're looking for a motion on 11, but that's held. Is that a misprint? A motion on 11?
I mean, they're all set up to act on, but we
Right.
moved to hold them.
You could do a motion there as to 10, 11, and 12 to move to hold the mayor's and common council president's aldermanic appointments until the May 5th meeting.
Make that motion, Ken?
So moved.
Guzekowski will second.
I don't know if that hit the microphone, but just make a motion.
Yeah,
to
Gail
hold it to-
will move that items 10, 11, and 12 are held to the next scheduled common council meeting of May 5th.
Guzekowski will second.
Roll call.
Sorry about that. Alderman Kirkowski.
Aye.
Lorik.
Aye.
Dukenyak.
Aye.
Toman.
Aye.
Gale.
Aye.
Guzekowski.
Aye.
And item 13 is consideration of a motion to concur with the mayor's appointments for the following. And they are as listed. You can take a look. It's for celebrations, tourism, traffic and safety, landscape, library, Board of Zoning Appeals, and the Weed Commissioner. So yeah, please take a look at those, and if you're satisfied, we'll do a motion.
Gail will move to concur with the mayor's appointments, reappointments as listed.
Guzekowski will second.
Roll call.
Alderman Lorik.
Aye.
Dukenyak.
Aye.
Toman.
Aye.
Gale.
Aye.
Guzekowski.
Aye.
Kirkowski.
Aye.
Item 14 is consideration of a resolution approving a certified survey map submitted by John Schudler. Schleter, thank you. Frontline Commercial Real Estate for the property at 9315 South 13th.
Doug was online.
Do we have Doug? Oh, there he is.
I am here. Can everybody hear me? And can everybody see these as I'm on the screen?
Yep.
Very good. Well, this is a certified survey map for the property at 9315 South 13th Street. This is for the Avid Hotel, which was recently approved via conditional use permit and plan review by the Plan Commission. So the hotel itself would be on Lot 1. Lot 2 would be for future commercial development. I will note that the lot lines may change a little bit given some considerations for dealing with some utility issues. And if that happens prior to recording, that we consider that a technical issue. But essentially, I mean, it is to enact the conditional use permit that was granted for, I believe, a 92-unit hotel for Avid Hotels at this property. Be happy to answer any questions that the council might have regarding this issue.
Okay. Questions concerning the property? Nothing? Okay. No, I think Doug explained it very well. They're continuing to work with staff on some easements there for a water lateral easements. So beyond that, it was pretty standard stuff. So.
I mean, the one thing I also will note is that there is no direct access to 13th Street or either of these lots. This is all taking access off the shared driveway with Steinhoffels, the property to the north.
Yep, thank you for that clarification, Doug. That is
I didn't
important.
realize that.
So it'll be nice. Okay, motion, please.
Guzekowski can make a motion that the common council adopt resolution number 12154-042120, resolution approving certified survey map submitted by John Schleter Frontline Commercial Real Estate for the property at 9315 South 13th Street.
Oracle second.
Roll call.
Alderman Dukniak.
Aye.
Toman.
Aye.
Gale.
Aye.
Guzekowski.
Aye.
Kirkowski.
Aye.
Lorick.
Aye.
Item
Thank you.
15 is, oh, thank you, Doug. Thanks, Doug. Item 15 is consideration of a resolution approving a stormwater management best practice agreement with Mod Homes LLC for the residents at Oakview condominium project located at 10730 South Howell Avenue. And got Mike Simmons with us.
Okay, wondering if everybody can hear me?
I think he's too close, actually.
All right, I'll talk quiet.
The screen smaller.
So, yes, this is really kind of the standard agreement that we have for all new developments that require their own stormwater management. And this item and item 16 that follows are very similar. So try and be a little more efficient and just give you the spiel. These all have are served with storm sewer, routed through detention ponds, designed and constructed to release the water at an acceptable rate. I guess this item that we have, item 15, is the I believe it's the 83 or 82 homes, condo homes down in the south part of the city, across from Oakview Business Park. And then the one that follows is the Hub 13 apartment complex. At any rate, these both were somewhat unusual, that they were very challenging for the designers to get to work, just because of site limitations. And of course, with these developments, they want to maximize the site with as many lots and buildings as they can. And that's when they run into some of these challenges. The Hub 13 site has also had some environmental issues, wetlands, and whatnot they had to avoid. So they worked closely with staff, Phil Beermeister in particular, and they were able to make the requirements. So the stormwater management plan was approved and passed on to MMSD, where it will be approved very soon, if not already. And then these are the maintenance agreements that require these properties to maintain their storm management facilities, in particular the detention ponds.
Questions for Mike? Nothing? Okay. Motion, please.
Yeah, we'll move to approve resolution 12152-042120, approving a stormwater management practices maintenance agreement with Mod Homes LLC for the residences at Oakview condominium project located at 10730 South Howell Avenue.
Guzekowski will second.
Roll call.
Alderman Toman.
Aye.
Gale.
Aye.
Guzekowski.
Aye.
Kirkowski.
Aye.
Lorick.
Aye.
Dukniak.
Aye. And item 16 is a resolution approving the stormwater management practice maintenance agreement with Hub 13 LLC for their apartment project located at 7581 South 13th. Mike, you kind of touched on it, but go ahead.
Yep. Yeah, right. So this is for the 300 units that is included with the development here on 13th Street, a little bit north of it's north of the Highgate development that's currently under construction at 13th and Drexel. This is 6 3-story buildings, 3 2-story buildings, and a clubhouse. And they have mobilized on site out there. They are really just doing their erosion control installation and doing some tree clearing. Once this all gets through, then they will be able to proceed on with more substantial grading. They also in the queue, they've got their sewer and water approvals that are being looked at now by MMSD and the DNR. So the order would be grading and then sanitary sewer installation. So they are moving forward.
Any questions regarding that one? No? Motion, please.
Kirkowski make a motion that the council adopt resolution number 12153-042120, a resolution approving a stormwater management practices maintenance agreement with Hub 13 LLC for their Hub 13 apartment project located at 7581 South 13th Street.
Oracle second.
Roll call.
Alderman Gale.
Aye.
Guzekowski.
Aye.
Kirkowski.
Aye.
Lorik.
Aye.
Dukenyak.
Aye.
Tobin.
Aye.
Thank you, Mike. Item 17 is licensing. I'd like to turn that over to Alderman Kirkowski.
Thank you, Mayor. I trust everybody has had an opportunity to review the Common Council report. Does anybody have any cares, questions, or concerns? Seeing none, Kirkowski will make a motion to grant the various license requests as listed on the April 21st, 2020 License Committee report.
Dukenyak second.
Roll call.
Alderman Guzekowski.
Aye.
Kirkowski.
Aye.
Lorik.
Aye.
Dukenyak.
Aye.
Toman.
Aye.
Gale.
Aye.
And item 18 is our vendor summary report for April 15th, 2020. If you'd all take a look, and if you have any questions, let us know and we'll see who's on the line to answer them. Mayor? Yeah, go ahead, Chris.
Alderman Guzekowski, 6th District. I have a question on number 4 for the Edgewater Resources temporary road concept and development cost. Just curious about that.
So Mike, if Simmons, if you're still on, you might want to chime in, but I think the label is a bit of a misnomer. Edgewater Resources is part of our environmental engineering consulting group that is looking at certain numerous things on the Peter Cooper and the Bluff. So that might have something to do with accessing that bluff and things like that. But I think it's a little more involved than just the temporary road concept development. Maybe Mike, you could shed some more light on that.
Yep, that's absolutely right. Thanks, Andrew. Edgewater is a consultant that has been helping us as we look at the erosion on the bluff on the North Lake Vista site, the former Peter Cooper site. Helping us. They're doing some modeling of the waves and the conditions down there. This all in relation to this record high water level in the lake, but also concepts on what we could do to what our designs might be if and when we have to get down there to do some work to get the toe of the bluff stabilized.
Thank you.
Anything else? Motion.
Gail moved to approve the April 15, 2020 vendor summary report in the total amount of $336,379.58.
Guzekowski, second.
Roll call.
Alderman Kirkowski.
Aye.
Lorik.
Aye.
Dukenyak.
Aye.
Toman.
Aye.
Gale.
Aye.
Guzekowski.
Aye.
And item 19 is consideration of a motion to convene into closed session pursuant to Wisconsin State statutes to discuss the following. A, Section 19.85, Sub 1, Sub C, to discuss the performance evaluation for the city administrator. President Gale.
Thank you, Mayor. Gail moves to convene into closed session pursuant to Wisconsin State statutes to discuss the following. A, Section 19.85, Sub 1, Sub C, to discuss the performance evaluation for the city administrator.
Guzekowski, second.
Roll call.
Alderman Lorik.
Aye.
Dukenyak.
Aye.
Toman.
Aye.
Gale.
Aye.
Guzekowski.
Aye.
Kirkowski.
Aye. We will now convene into closed session and resume at its conclusion. We'll now reconvene into open session. Motion, please.
Gail moves to reconvene in open session.
Guzekowski, I'll second.
Roll call.
Alderman Dukniak.
Aye.
Toman.
Aye.
Gale.
Aye.
Guzekowski.
Aye.
Kirkowski.
Aye.
Lorik.
Item 21 is motion to consider action on the city administrator's performance evaluation and wage.
Thank you, Mayor. Gail will make a motion to move the city, a new annual contract with the city administrator to set his annual base compensation at $138,000 effective January 1st, 2020, along with a $3,000 non-base building bonus.
Toman will second.
Roll call.
Alderman Toman.
Aye.
Gale.
Aye.
Guzekowski.
Aye.
Kirkowski.
Aye.
Lorik.
Aye.
Dukniak.
And that'll get us to adjournment. Before we adjourn, again, as always, I know it's broken record, social distancing, washing hands. If you're going to go out for supplies, groceries, please send out one member of the household. Respect the rules of the CDC, and we'll be able to open things up much quicker if we all work together following those rules. So again, please use good judgment at this time. Use good, safe health practices, and remember, what you're doing is for others as well as your own good. So go out there. If you need a mask, please wear them and respect other people going forward. So
Keep an eye on the city website for the opening of this yard.
thank you, Mike. And please monitor the city website for announcements, not only on COVID, but on the reopening of the city recycle yard and dump. And also, the city has some activities going on citywide with the city bingo the library is putting on. And there's some activities and some tips for mental health and everything else going on. So please take a look at the city website and Facebook page. With that, adjournment, please.
Kirkowski make a motion to adjourn.
Dukniak, second.
Roll call.
Alderman Gale.
Aye.
Guzekowski.
Aye.
Kirkowski.
Aye.
Lorik.
Aye.
Dukniak.
Aye.
Toman.
Good night, everybody. Stay safe, and thank you for tuning in.